Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to another glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. You can see the sun right across my chest. PORSVR is my Twitter handle, and Ryan Holmes is RHON22. I'm on the shores of the Pacific Ocean. Ryan is doing the whole Carmen Santiago thing. Where you at today, Ryan?
Somewhere in the Midwest.
I'm in the Midwest. Oh, that sounds like fun. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yep.
I do want to say, before we get to Raider-related news, I do want to say rest in peace to Louis Gossett Jr., who passed away this morning, 87 years old, was in The Officer and a Gentleman, was in Roots, was in a lot of really great movies, one of my favorites. So, yeah, I just want to make sure I'll pass out. He was also in Color Purple, so a lot of great movies for Louis Gossett Jr. The Raiders, again, we're just in this like little dead period now where, we kind of a little bit of recycled news here and there, but you did say something last week that I wanted to kind of circle back to or put a pin in it, to use corporate terminology. I love those phrases. People say that you were worried about the offense as they currently stand. And I definitely understand it. I get it too, but I do want to kind of, I forgot to circle back last week with you during that show. What specifically are the things that you're worried about right now? And I think I know, but you go ahead and start with that.
Yeah, I mean, the offense last year was putrid. Let's tell the truth. It wasn't very good. They didn't score a lot of points. They didn't possess the ball. I don't know if they've upgraded anywhere on the offense. They've lost Hunter Renfrow. They lost Josh Jacobs. They still have questions along the offensive line. They still have questions under center. Who's going to be the quarterback? And you're essentially bringing back James at center, Parham at guard, and Miller, which is a nice threesome, but you still don't know what you're going to do at right guard, right tackles. You're hoping at slot receiver you can move Adams or Myers inside and use Tucker's speed on the outside as the third receiver, but I don't feel great about Zamir White and Madison in the backfield as far as over a course of a 17-game season and what they bring. So for an offense that couldn't score last year, I don't think the offense has improved at all. I think the offense has taken a step back. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, hoping a year of Aiden O'Connell and or Gardner Minshew under center helps you. But that's not going to change the landscape of the AFC in any stretch of the imagination with those two guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think on coupling that with the fact that the Raiders have a defensive-minded head coach,
which we talked about when they hired AP. This is what was going to happen, which I'm not against it happening. I'm just saying that these are the realities of where this roster is right now. Obviously, this is going to change come the draft.
Yep.
But they're going to spend money on defense for the first time in a long time.
Yes, and I get it because if you looked at the pie chart, if you will, money wise, with the defense and defense and offense, the Raiders weren't scoring points and they were paying the offensive side of the ball a whole lot of money. So I get the Jacobs. I get the Jacobs thing. Let Jacobs go. I get it. Offensive line, I mean, we didn't love Illuminor, but like, hey, do you have a plan to replace him? And I think the first question we had for Mike was, how much faith do we have in Thayer Munford to be the right tackle? And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we have that much faith in that. I think they have to get some competition in there because, him doing it part-time, switching in and out on certain plays is one thing. Him being 17-game starter is another thing.
Yeah, I think Mumford's best spot is kind of that swing tackle where he can play some right, he can play some left tackle in a pinch and help you out for short stretches. He struggled against the better pass rushers last year when he had to play snaps. So lining him up, playing right tackle for 17 games, I think is a stretch at this point.
Mhm.
You'd like to have a veteran presence along the offensive line, or even a first-round rookie if you go that route, but then it's another young player to put out there. I just don't think that he's going to hold up for 17 games and give you the production that you need for this offense to be successful. And I like Thayer Munford, but I think he's a swing tackle, at least for another year or two as he continues to develop.
Yeah, no question about it. And looking at the list of tackles, I mean, obviously tackles are very difficult off the street. You got Bakhtiari out there, DJ Humphries is out there. Still, I mean, you're still gonna. They probably when you sit back and look at the fact that it's Munford and Wagner on the depth chart right now, they got to add somebody in the draft and a veteran, and see who wins out as far as that goes. Let's just jump into it. Michael Penix ran straight for 40 he ran straight. He ran straight.
His knee held together for 40 straight yards.
Yeah,
that's a good sign.
That's a good sign. It's funny because like now, because Andre had a question about Michael Penix, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But it's just like he passed all the medical stuff. The best doctors in the world are sports work for these NFL teams. He passed that. He ran. I'm not gonna say Michael Vick. I'm just gonna say he ran, but he didn't fall apart. You know what I mean? As far as physically running that dash. He's a probably high. He probably plays with those knee braces all the time. So that's probably why he was in spandex and not shorts. Whatever. I don't really care. But with that being said, like, what excuse do the Raiders have to not draft the quarterback at 13? Like, I mean, I'm trying to be like, I'm like, yes, you try to trade up, but if this guy and Knicks are there or whoever, whatever, I mean, like, who knows who's on what boards, whatever. But like, at the end of the day, like, you can't like go position player first round, second round, and then come back with Rattler and think you got a really good quarterback room.
I have a couple of things to say on this. So yeah, he ran straight. When you watch him play football, for those that have watched Washington play this year, outside,
100%.
let's eliminate the 2 playoff games. If you watch them during the regular season, Michael Penix wasn't a guy that was running around and creating plays. He stays in the pocket. He delivers the football. He doesn't scramble. He doesn't get out there. And because he can run a 4.55, that's great. He doesn't play with that speed when you turn the tape on. Can he do it? Yeah, he's athletic enough to do it, but his game is more staying in the pocket and getting rid of the football. You would like to see him use that athletic ability a little bit more. So it's good that he can run and it's in there. And that's maybe something that he has to unlock at the next level. I will say on the medical, there's a difference between passing the medical and the team doctors going in there and grading how long they think the knee's going to hold up. Usually the doctors are going to put a timeline on it. Like, we think he's good for 3 to 5 years, and there may be issues down the line. Maybe some teams say we think he's good. There won't be any future issues. So that's going to come back on the MRIs and all the imaging, and each team doctor is going to grade the inside of his knee differently. So we don't know what teams are doing with that. Passing it now and running a 40 is different than what the teams in the draft room are going to say. What's the longevity of this career? I immediately think of Miles Jack. There was teams that basically said when Miles Jack came out of USC, his knee wasn't going to hold up, and that's why he fell to the second round. And for the most part, it has. He's played 5, 6, 7 years now at this point. He's been in the NFL for quite a bit. But there was a lot, if you remember back to Miles Jack coming out, there was a lot of teams that said the knee wasn't going to hold up for 5 years. A lot of team doctors did not sign off on Miles Jack's knee, even though he was playing 2 ways at UCLA. He was playing running back and linebacker. So we don't really know that. On the quarterback in the 3rd, 4th round, Spencer Rattler, I see a lot of comments online, like, add a quarterback later in the draft. Competition's great. I'll tell you this. If you have 3 quarterbacks that aren't any good, and there's a competition, you know what you have? You still have 3 quarterbacks that aren't any good. You need a good quarterback, and then you have competition to push him. Pushing 3 quarterbacks that are none of them are ever going to be in the top 20 of the league. Doesn't help you at all.
And I was saying this to a friend of mine too, was like, boy, there are some Raider fans who are conditioned they have been conditioned through the years to poo-poo any chance the Raiders have to draft a quarterback. They do not want a quarterback unless for any reason whatsoever, unless it's like one specific guy. And like they push back, push back. And my only pushback to that is like, can we just try like for the next 17 years, keep drafting quarterbacks and see how that works? Because the not drafting quarterbacks obviously doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You end up with Derek Carr, you end up with Aiden O'Connell, you end up with Jimmy G. Like this whole like, hey, we're gonna grab a Jim Plunkett, we're gonna grab somebody else from somebody else's room and make him great. That's just, Al's not here anymore. Those days are gone. Those days are absolutely gone. Those days are absolutely gone.
I will add this too, the whole people out that are like, build up the roster, go get an offensive lineman, go get a corner, continue to do that.
Yeah.
Well, that's you're 2 or 3 years away from building an elite roster. And that's if you hit on most of the draft picks. But now Devontae Adams is 36, 36. Now Max Crosby's approaching 30. You better get the quarterback right the minute you draft him 3 years from now. And for all the people that are saying, get the quarterback next year, there are no quarterbacks next year. Whatever you think of Shedeur Sanders, he was not good last year at Colorado. If you watch Colorado play outside of the first 3 games of the year, and on top of that, if he is going to go at the top of the draft next year, because there's a very light quarterback class coming out, the Raiders are still not going to be in position to take one because this roster is still going to win 6, 7, 8 games, and they're going to end up somewhere picking 8 to 15 again. So for everyone that's like, don't move the draft capital to go get the guy now, you're going to be in the same situation next year. So at some point, you just have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not that frightening. I'm sorry to tell like Raider fans and like Raider management, like this drafting a quarterback in the first round is really not that frightening, especially in a condensed draft, a COVID draft, where like the first 4 picks you can get a really good player in the second round if you do your due diligence. In the third round, fourth round, like I'm not sure what this whole thing is. And I will say this: I know we had Mo Moten on before, and he talked about how you draft an offensive tackle and then get a quarterback and could trade back in the first round. Like my thing is this to that
That's
is
my mock draft like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was. The only thing I would say about it is I just don't trust the NFL teams. And I know I'm going through the draft order, and I'm saying like it just takes one squad to be in front of you. And if you're too cute, like if you're Pittsburgh, if you're the Rams, like the Rams have a 37-year-old quarterback. The Seahawks. Yeah, I mean, like all those guys could still take a quarterback and just be a luxury pick for them because their roster is pretty much good to go. Just get the quarterback. If you want to trade back in the first round to get like a good position player, go ahead, do that. But just like bite the bullet. I know it's scary world out there. God forbid you draft a quarterback, but it's time to draft a quarterback for this team. They need juice in the building. There's going to be no, as much as people love AP, there will be no juice in the building if it's Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. I'm just sorry.
Yeah, if they like Michael Penix and they think he can be their quarterback of the future and he's there at 13, you have to take him at 13. Yeah. Whether you believe in the medical, unless the doctors say no. If the doctors come in and say no, then obviously they can't do it. But we don't know if that's going to be the case. But hoping that he gets there to 44, or you can trade back in the first round. Yeah, it's great to do in mock drafts. It's great to do in theory, but the odds of that happening and someone else not jumping you or someone else taking him isn't very good, especially if the other 5 quarterbacks go before that. He's the next guy.
Yeah.
No one had the Packers taking Aaron Rodgers when they had a Brett Favre. No one had the Packers taking Jordan Love when they had Aaron Rodgers. Some team that we think might not want a quarterback might just want a quarterback.
Yep.
I just don't know.
Exactly. I mean, this is like, like everything you read out of Jacksonville is that this is pretty much Trevor Lawrence's last shot. He has to show that he's the quarterback.
What if you're the Dolphins? Do you really want to pay Tua, or do you want a guy that can throw the ball 70 yards down the field to those 2 wide receivers and start over? They just 100%. Lost half their roster because they're paying everybody. They can reset the clock in a heartbeat if they draft Michael Penix.
Yeah, he's preaching to the choir. I mean, I don't like I said, take the quarterback and stop being stupid. Anything. So your Penix had a pro day. May had a pro day. Daniels had a pro day. I mean, they're all scripted. They're all like, to make the quarterback look good, to make the receivers look good. Any thoughts on the pro days that took place last couple of days?
Yeah, I think it's all eyewash, and a lot of fans see it and think guys are going to make huge jumps off a pro day. The scouts have seen the tape. They've
Yes,
studied, they've met with these players, they know their backgrounds, they've talked to the coaches. Nothing these guys do in a pro day is going to change where they're going to go on draft day. Nothing.
correct.
Unless it's a 40 time that's much better than anticipated, which rarely happens. But there's going to be very little movement on NFL draft boards based on a pro day.
No question about it. Tom Telesco. I didn't get a lot of stuff from Tom Telesco's interview. I know you didn't get a chance to see it. It's just basically him just talking about what direction of the team, all those things like that. AP's interview. I need to call a snippet of that. People are making a big deal about the AP talk. I mean the AOC talk and everything like that. AOC is the incumbent. Like whether you like the incumbent or not, but obviously there's a ceiling to what he can do. So they brought in Gardner Minshew. Hopefully they bring a rookie quarterback. What were your thoughts about what the coach of the Raiders said?
Yeah, he has to talk about Aiden O'Connell right now because he's the returning starter.
Yes,
And there's a competition between him and Gardner Minshew. He can't just go out there and say,
and
these
trash
two
him.
guys we have in the building, we don't like them. They're not any good. And then if
Yeah.
they don't get a guy in the draft, then you have to go back and try to talk those guys up. So until there's another quarterback in the building, they're going to talk up the two that are there. That's just what coaches do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if he has confidence in O'Connell, if he has to go that way, he has to. He's the head coach of the team. But I'm sure behind closed doors, they know the limitations those guys have, where they got them and why they were available, and they are looking to upgrade. The question is, will Tom Telesco pay the price? Will the team agree to a trade? It's going to be costly. Do they stay at 13? Do they try to move up to 7 or 8 if Drake May falls or something like that? We won't know until we actually get to draft day, which is less than a month away. And I can't wait to get through this draft, but I figure out what they're going to do at quarterback and then start filling some holes around that.
Yeah, no question about it. I think we talked about it in text, and I'm not sure we talked about it on the show, but it is not going to be that big of a deal, right? For if they did draft Penix to flip the offense, correct? I mean that is not going to be. I mean, the most famous one was going from Montana to Young, and they were able to flip that offense as well. I mean, it should not be an issue flipping this offense, right?
No, you just set everything up based on the other hash. You turn around some of the terminology, the route concepts are the same. You just run them to the other side of the field, and you need a right tackle that can pass protect essentially and be the blind side of the quarterback. But it's not that difficult to insert a left-handed quarterback. It'll be different if they have to play during the season and you have to flip it back, but it's stuff that NFL players can easily handle. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, I know there was some conversation as well too. So jump on that. So I want to give you a scenario. The Tribe Called Quest scenario. The Raiders take Penix in the first round, or Knicks in the first round at 13. What are the best second round options, and what position group should they be attacking here going forward? Because I would think if you get Penix, they should be going tackle right after that.
If they get Penix, then they need a right tackle. They need a guy to protect his blind side. If they take him in the first round, so you start looking at some tackles in the second round. I still think corner is a big need.
Yeah, it is.
On this roster. So either way, I think it's corner or tackle or the next guys in line, depending on who falls to the second round. If they go Bo Nix, I don't think it's as big of a need. You still need one. You still need a right tackle, but you might be able to get one further down in the draft, maybe third round. And hopefully the guy left there that can fit your scheme. I do think the one guy, and I keep coming back to this, for all the fans that want to take an offensive tackle, you see Puaga's name and Latham's name thrown out there the most. The guy that fits the scheme is Tyler Guyton. If they're going to run outside zone, and they need a guy that's big, that has length, that can move, that can get to the second level. Now, he needs work on his technique. He's not a finished product. But I'm sure the offensive line coach and the OC are salivating over the athletic upside of a guy like Tyler Guyton. Is it a stretch at 13? Could they trade down maybe to like 18 or 20 and take him and then get extra capital to move back up to get the quarterback,
Yeah.
that's an option. But if you want to talk about pure scheme fit, if they're going to run outside zone, it's Tyler Guyton.
Dude, and for those who are not familiar with the measurables of Tyler Guyton, homie is 6'8", 322 pounds. This dude is
And he's a freak athlete.
He is a big ass dude. He's a big ass dude. So you got that.
I'm not saying that Tyler Guyton's better than those other two guys.
But he just fits it. Yeah, he fits.
He's a better scheme fit.
With Kingsley from BYU? Would that be a guy?
He's more of a left tackle.
Left tackle. Okay.
Not a huge fan of Kingsley out of BYU.
Okay. And then Patrick Paul.
Again, he's more of a left tackle again, and it's more of he needs a lot of work on his technique. There's a lot of upside, but I don't think he's ready to play day one. You're probably looking at more at like maybe a Javon Foster out of Missouri, maybe a guy that's played both sides, maybe a Chris Jones out of I believe it's Chris Jones out of Texas, big physical mauler. Now not a great fit for the zone scheme. Roger Rosengarten would be the best guy.
Yeah.
If you could get him in the second round. If he played with Penix, he was the right tackle at Washington. He's athletic. He could probably play both sides. Could give you some swing tackle as well. If Thayer Mumford develops into a right tackle, then you can always use Rosengarten. And he's used to blocking the backside there for Michael Penix.
Yeah, interesting. As far as corners go, I know the Mike San Teresal from
he's a slot. Yeah,
he's a slot guy. You can just I can just talk about the measurements. He's a slot. He's a good slot guy, but he's a slot guy. The Raiders already have one of those. You got the kid out of Missouri, Aeneas Rakeshaw Jr.
Rakeshaw would be good. If they could get Rakeshaw, that would be a good pick in the second round.
In the second round. So just give me some options there for the second round to see what will be there if the Raiders went quarterback in the first it sounds like Guyton might not make, because a lot of mocks I've seen, and listen, mocks aren't like the word like the whole thing, but they have them going in late in the first round to like San Francisco or people like that. So I mean, if the Raiders want somebody like that, they might have to trade back up into that spot to get. I mean,
athletic guys with his size and his skill aren't going to be there 25 to 30. He's going somewhere 18 to 25 would be my guess.
Yeah, no question about it. We talked about the offensive tackle, cornerback, all those things like that. What are your thoughts on, like, listen, tackling individuals is not an easy task. These guys are some of the best athletes in the world. The hip drag tackle, I think, is something that players are gonna have to get used to, especially when you're trailing somebody. But what are your thoughts about the league getting rid of the hip drag tackle?
I think it's gonna be very hard to play defense in the NFL, especially with some of the way these tight ends move.
Yeah,
even the receivers and the angles these guys have to take. When the guy is next to you or you're behind him, I don't know how you're going to tackle. Like, unless you just dive and try to grab his shoelace and trip him up. But it's hard to do that when the guy's 270 pounds and he's running away from you. You're going to have to get guys. I think it's probably going to lead to, in my opinion, to more zone defense, to where you have bodies in front of guys to make cleaner tackles and get into the proper position than running around and chasing guys down the field. And the way this league is turning into offensively, you almost have to be a zone defense at this point, unless you have elite lockdown corners.
100%.
You got to keep the safeties over the top. You got to keep everything in front of you and rally and tackle. That's probably the best way to play defense at this point, because they got rid of the horse collar. That was good. It eliminates injury. The hip drag tackle, some of them are iffy. The video that the league put out, I saw some of those tackles, and I'm like, I don't know what the guy's supposed to do. I have no clue.
Yeah.
How you're supposed to tackle a guy at that point, especially if you're in a trail position. So keep everything in front of you, and rally and tackle is probably going to be the best thing to do at this point. But you need guys that have good form, that are good tacklers, but they don't practice tackling anymore. So like you're asking them to do something you don't allow them to do in practice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like in baseball when you watch some of these teams that I see where it's, hey, let's work background, let's work some ground balls, let's do this. And then in the game, you're like, open it up, let it eat, hit a home run. Well, you guys don't practice that. Like you're asking
Yeah.
these guys to do something that you don't let them do. It's
Uh,
basically the same thing they're doing in the NFL now.
yeah, no question about it. Yeah, it's just. I mean, I think Warren Sharp is taking a lap because he was one of the biggest guys who talked about it every single day about the hip drag tackle as far as that goes. The kickoff rule. What like are what were your thoughts about the kickoff rule as far as that goes going forward? We talk a lot of special teams on this show, probably more than most.
Well, I think it's going to help the roster in terms of you're going to need more linebackers, more tight ends, more guys that can run around and move and tackle versus having some bigger guys on special teams. Usually you see like backup defensive ends. Occasionally you'll see, the bigger blocking tight end out there. You're not going to have that anymore. You need guys that can move around in space because there's not a lot of room. And I think it really opens up the kick returners. I think the kick return is back. You're gonna have guys with speed back there, but you're gonna need the shifty guys that can make people make people miss, almost like punt returning, because the guys are gonna be on you pretty quick. I didn't see what the rule is. If they kick it in the end zone, do they get it to 30? I think I read that. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but moving the ball to the 30 is kind of disadvantageous to the defense. So you're almost gonna let these guys return it and hope you can tackle.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. It's interesting. I think one of the rules. I mean, one of the rules that I thought they would try to change would be the if you fumble the ball out of the back of the end zone. I mean, you fumble the ball out of the end zone when you're trying to go into the end zone. It said the touchback. I thought there was some juice behind that. But they didn't touch that rule as well. So we'll see. I'm not
I don't
sure
really hate that rule. Don't fumble the ball at the end zone.
dude, yeah, 100%. Like
When your team's on
go ahead.
defense, guy fumbles it to the end zone, you don't hate that rule. You only hate it when your team's on offense.
It's funny because like a friend of mine was like, "Hey, you're rewarding a defense because you're rewarding a defense, and they didn't recover the football." But I'm like, the coach of the Browns, Stefanski, one of his guys did this. He was running towards the end zone. He stuck the ball out. It was like second down. Stuck the ball out, and it was going to be first and goal. He fumbles the ball out of the back of the end zone. So he said that they said unless it's the game on the line situation, we practice not doing that because we're going to score on the next play on first and goal anyway. So like that's a player being a little selfish there, and that player is not in the Browns anymore. I thought it was pretty funny. I forgot his name, but they practice not doing that. They talk about not doing that because the swing from you going in the score and the other team getting the ball at 20-yard line is huge because in the NFL because most of these games are one-score games.
Yeah, to me, the rule is the rule.
Yes.
You fumble through the end zone, you lose the ball. So don't stick it out. Don't dive at the goal line. And you have to teach it. You have to teach these guys to do that because they're all trying to score. So it comes down to coaching. Like you have to coach the finer points of how to do that and how to be successful. And like I said, to me, when your team's on defense, you love that rule. When your team's on offense, you hate it. I'd like to see. We want to talk about bad rules. Let's go back to the Seahawks game when Marquez Pope recovered a fumble in the rain and slid into the end zone. And they gave the Seahawks a safety back in like 2001, 2002. That was a terrible rule. Like fumbling the ball into the end zone is not a terrible rule.
Yeah.
And reward the defense.
No question. We're gonna before we go, I did see Charles Davis had a mock draft, which I thought was kind of a funny one. It was just here he had three quarterbacks going May. Yeah, Williams, May, and Daniels. I thought it was funny that the coach at LSU said Washington in his interview. Because I guess he's trying to get his guy to go to Washington. I don't think, so let me see here. For the Raiders situation, we had JJ McCarthy going at 11. Then he had the Raiders take in Fuaga. And then he has at a 16. And this is what, I mean, listen, I'm not sure how dialed in this is. I mean, everybody does a mock draft. Tannenbaum did one the other day where Kyler Murray got traded. I mean, so it is what it is.
I guess
right?
he didn't look at the dead money on that contract.
well, he didn't look at the dead money when he was the actual GM, so it doesn't matter, right? Michael Penix going to Seattle. So
I guess
that's
their offensive coordinator's in Seattle. He's from the Northwest.
yes, because Grubb is Ryan Grubb, right? The same guy, guy, same guy. So
Same guy.
so we gotta be careful there. And then they also had Bo Nix going to the Rams. And I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but that really could happen. So don't get cute. These guys are not going to survive past the teens for you. So trading back is not an option for the Raiders. It's try to trade up. You can't trade up. It's draft a quarterback because this part right here, yes, 6 quarterbacks could go in the first round. It's very feasible for that to take place. So don't be just don't be cute. Don't be cute. You got teams out here who don't have a lot of financial ties to their quarterback room. So don't end up with Michael Pratt. And
like I said, if you have a competition with 3 bad quarterbacks, guess what you have? You still have 3 bad quarterbacks.
So got 3 bad quarterbacks. Go ahead.
I would say this on Seattle. They can get out of that Geno Smith contract next year very easily. Sam Howell, they didn't really give up much to get him, and he has 2 years on a rookie deal as a 4th rounder, so he's making no money. There's no commitment. So if they want to add Penix for a year and then Geno walks and then Penix becomes a starter and then they can just let Sam Howell walk, there's nothing restricting them from taking a quarterback.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, they need one in that division.
Yep.
To compete. What if they trade? A lot of people say just sit there at 13, he'll be there. What if the Seahawks trade up to 9 or 10 and take him in front of you? Then you're really screwed.
Then you're really screwed. And then you think about that too, and then you think about bringing Michael Penix into a room where you have 3 really good receivers. A good running game that'd be a good spot for him to go to as well. And also you mentioned the connection with the offensive coordinator. All right, Raider Nation. Go ahead.
I would like to add one. A lot of people push back on my Quinyon Mitchell in my mock draft, and they're like, "Why would you take Mitchell over Arnold?" Because they like Arnold because AP talked to Arnold. To me, they're the same size. They're both 6 foot, 189, 195. They both have the same 31-inch arms. They both have the very same vertical jump. But when guys are equal, and one guy ran a 4.33 and one guy ran a 4.5, and one guy did 20 bench reps and the other guy didn't even lift.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the guy that runs a 4.33, and I just love how fluid and what an easy mover Mitchell is. He can play man, he can play zone, he has catch-up speed, he's strong, he can come up in the run game. I know Arnold's a good tackler too, but if they're that equal, take the guy that's 0.2 of a faster in the 40.
Ryan, fans see Toledo and they see Alabama. That's why they want the other guy. That's
good. Through the list of Alabama quarterbacks, Alabama running backs, and Alabama offensive linemen that haven't done anything in the NFL.
Oh, I mean, are you talking about Leatherwood? People like that?
The whole list of them. If you want to go
I know everybody sees that school. That's the reason why. I 100%. But you put me on a Quinyon Mitchell, and the tape backs it up. He's cornerback. I love the player. I love the player.
Quinyon Mitchell fan.
Me too. All right, Raider Nation, go Raiders. Enjoy. If you're a baseball fan, enjoy opening day, all that stuff like that.